There we go. Hi, good morning. Today I'm going to do a video describing physics as our eldest consciousness. Before I get started, I just want to give a little preface because I absolutely love science, but I have such a hard time in the scientific community because of the cruelty, and I'm not just talking about animal cruelty. I'm talking about the arrogant meanness, laughing. I mean, you say something and you have five dudes laughing and pointing at you, and it's a lot. So really quick, I am, you people may not know me and I say weird stuff like Reiki for electronics, but I am considered a genius by your IQ standards. Okay, so I've passed all of your tests. And when was in school and in college, I was always you know appreciated by my professors. I did lots of things that many in classes with 1,000 students, I was the one talking to the head of the board. I was the one rewriting things. I was the one, talking with the organic chemistry professor about rewriting it and getting asked to help. I was the one who took my time off and started a biodiesel station. So I don't know what you ding dongs are thinking because I say weird stuff like you think Reiki's so stupid. But my PP is as big as yours as far as the left brain science goes. And I just need to say this because I'm also a highly empathetic person, which clearly many of you lack. And so when I see you being mean, I don't just see it, I feel it. I feel the grossness inside of you. I feel the contempt. I feel the isolation that you feel, that you're laughing because you wish you understood and you wish you could connect to other things. And that fear that you're alone, that you're nothing but a speck that just came and is going to go. And, that is your fear. And I feel that when you say that. So it makes me sick. So I don't really I don't really enjoy talking to tech people, or not very much, because there is that clinging to the facts and the lifeboat, which is just the little bits. I call our scientific database is just the spreadsheet of what we of infinity, of the pieces of infinity that we've managed to put in a spreadsheet. There we go. So it's not even remotely exhaustive, and you should know this, and everyone should know this, and anyone who's even studied science for a brief period should know this. So if you don't know this, then clearly you're not paying attention, and clearly the people that you look up to as scientists, you don't understand them as humans, because almost all of the greats, and I would venture to say all of them, but what we consider great is very, vastly different. So some people consider great in economics, inventing certain things like Rockefeller. Maybe he didn't come out the other side to be, a deeply empathetic spiritual person. So, but, Einstein, Newton, they spent a lot of their time talking about spirituality. Newton wrote so many books on theology. And of course, all you science people are going to laugh at him because he went off on a deep end, about God, and you think that's stupid, even though you literally study things. The things that he said X amount of years ago is what you base your whole life on, and yet you think he's an idiot for writing this other stuff. So this just really shows the smallness and also just the cruelty of humans, which is why I loathe to even talk to half of you. And but I you have to do this stuff, and whatever it is that's tapping on my shoulder, whatever it is that's been whispering things in my ear, that whispered things in Newton's ear, that whispered things in Einstein's ear, and whoever it was that gave Mendeleev his dream, because what is chemistry besides more complex physics? And the periodic table, right? No one could figure that shit out. Something whispered that to him. So whatever it is that's whispering that to is whispering to me to just make this video already. And I think it was good because it got prompted by a friend of mine posting about neutrino voltaics cells, which is basically, I called it Reiki for electronics. It's just pulling the ambient energies through and funneling them into a more specific use. And I'm gonna get even weirder, but in astrology we have Aries, so the fire nation, right? Aries is the first. It's the sort of lightning bolts everywhere. It's the forest fires. It's coming out of the volcano of life that really pushed us. And then we have Leo, which is the sun. It's this fixed ball of energy that we can depend on to get that electricity to grow plants. And then through that, we pass it along to us. Now, Sagittarius, I would say, is what we would consider the nerve endings, the very highly specific use of electronics and fire. And when we're talking about channeling into an electronic and putting it into a specific use, that's the end of the Fire Nation. That's Sagittarius. So anyway, yeah, I'm going to mix a whole bunch of mythologies and stuff because they're all mixed, okay? And also, I hope anyone who's watching this who is being a dink trips over and, gets their clothes dirty or something. I hope that you just sit in your grumpiness, okay, alone, and, just don't go spread it around because I can already feel you. Ugh. Okay, anyway, so last year, when I was opening up, now like I said, I've been very highly psychic since I was a child. Of course, many people are, and we don't realize it because you're kind of told that it's not true, even though it clearly is now that I'm doing it, and it's clearly accepted throughout the world. But because of that empathetic aspect of feeling, people's confusion and anger and meanness and you get more damaged than you should be based on. So my personal damage and abuse does not make sense for how damaged I felt because I could feel the pain of everything. And this is true. I snuck and saved my lunch money to do, send money to children because I thought they were starving and I knew I had food even though I was really just eating my parents' food and sending my money. And I literally, everything I've ever done is because I just ache for the world. And I, made myself be a stripper when I was a virgin with braces because I ached for how fucked up sex was. I couldn't understand it. It made me so sad and so sick. But I didn't fool around with anyone because it was fucked up. I didn't feel safe. I made out with some people, but I literally did nothing else. I had not even touched a penis when I was being a stripper, okay? I was so concerned. And that goes for everything. So anyway, I don't know, I just went off on a tangent because I'm going off on the emotional thing. And honestly, I don't care because you guys are jerks no matter what. Really, clearly, I made a post yesterday saying how people needed a little more grace and empathy. And a whole bunch of people came to scream at me about something that none of us have any hand in. And I wasn't saying what they thought I was saying, but somehow they thought that I was saying something that was, defending in saying that something was not, had no culpability or whatever. And they all were I was very surprised. I'm like, first of all, you didn't read the post because that's not what I was talking about. And second of all, some people, they don't even know them. And they just can't wait to string me up, right? Because I'm such an idiot. And so anyway, I'm a little bit fired up because you guys are just you just never stop being jerks. Ugh, just, and I'm just constantly, and you guys won't know this, but any communication I have with these entities or extraterrestrials, I am always sticking up for you guys. I am always gunning for the best. And then you always come around and be a bunch of brats and, and just be mean. And I don't like it, and that's just me. And that's why I wish I could just do my work and not really talk to people at all. But unfortunately, I don't think that's going to be the case for my life. And so I need to just tell you guys to stop being jerks 1,000 times because it's really a lot for me. And maybe that's going to make some of you want to be jerks. One guy today, I said something, jokingly oh, that really brings the thing down. And they're here's this for you. And they did it. And I said, cool, what a great shtick. You try to find ways to make the world worse and then you do them. That's, come on. The world's pretty bad, okay? It's people who say we have to put obstacles so people will try. No, we don't have to put obstacles. The universe is full of obstacles, okay? We do not need to create obstacles. We don't necessarily need to artificially remove them. We can help temper these things. And yeah, you don't want to completely coddle people from the fact that there are, but at the same time, we don't need to have boot camps of fake obstacles. People can participate with life and have these obstacles and we can all, work together And you don't need to go around and find ways to make the world worse. You really don't, okay? The world is doing pretty bad, okay? So it does not need your help. And if anything, all you're doing is making more poop for you to sit in. Like, I don't know if you think your poop all goes away, but you're sitting in it psychically, emotionally, and manifest in the physical world. You're sitting in it. So please, for the love of everything, try to just maybe for one day, just like not be a dink, just like for one day, like just take it down and just like maybe don't make a bunch of poop, poop in the toilet. I mean, you have to. Other than that, you don't have to. Okay. Anyway, so last year when I started really opening up to the channeling and started communicating with the universe, the entities, spirits, aliens, demons, vampires, whatever you want to call them, all of the above. One of the most interesting things that was sort of revealed or spoken to me was the concept that physics is our eldest consciousness. And yeah, it's so fascinating. So anyway, I was shown all the way back. It took me a while to do this work, to slowly go all the way back through all of these different things to start at and I had seen literally one headline that said the single electron universe, and the entities were like, yeah. So I haven't read the theory, okay? So I'm not here to debate whether he articulated it well or not, because it doesn't matter, because it was articulated to me very clearly as soon as I saw the headline. And it showed me, I have seen many, many times, all of everything is these electrons, and how this one electron was the thought, which I am, and which I did not know, turns out is sort of the beginning of Genesis. I did not know that until I was telling everybody this I am thing. And people who are Christian started saying, well, that makes sense with this. So it's not nice that there's some tie-in. But so there was basically that just an electron is just a thought. An electron is the single smallest molecule, or whatever molecule, iota, quanta. You guys just keep making up words for tiny, tiny things. And that's great. For whatever reason, we need to have a name for every single little thing that's in existence. And some people find comfort in that. And, I'm not here to tell you that you can't have this giant database and this lattice work that you have created in infinity, because infinity is freaky. It's a giant ocean. And, sometimes we like to pick up flotsam and make some cool boats, and then we make a cool island boat. And that's very cool. But stop being such a jerk about it, okay? Your flotsam is not the ocean. And we don't need all these words. If someone doesn't use the correct word and you know what they mean, come on, okay? And if you're not intelligent if you studied your science and you're not intelligent to follow what a layperson is saying, then you don't understand your study. I mean, that's just the truth of the matter. If you understand it, you should be able to explain it to an 8-year-old or even younger. You should be able to explain it in any way. So if you have to just spit out verbatim these things that you memorize, you know what? I'm not trying to be mean to you, but you're doing that to cover up your lack of understanding. And that's all there is to it. And you're doing that because you feel like you have to pretend to understand it so you can compete more. And that is, because everyone's really mean. And so then you perpetuate it by pretending to know things you don't know, and then by being mean to other people who you think don't know it because you don't understand what they're saying, because they didn't memorize the words you memorized, because maybe they were a little more comfortable with their understanding, or they didn't feel the need. So anyway, you're perpetuating this. So let's just get over that. I'm so tired of people pretending like they don't know what I'm saying. Plus, I can hear your thoughts. I know that you guys know what I'm saying. And the ones who don't, you're just being a jerk. And I honestly don't even want to talk to you. Okay, so anyway, it was an electron, or whatever it is, was shown as just the tiniest bit of thought. And then there was what we remember as far as a universal consciousness, as far as all the way back that I've gone, is we remember not being anything, and then sort of just being. We can look at it now as we're an adult, and we can go back. But we don't remember it. It's like we didn't remember being a baby. Okay, so physics didn't necessarily remember itself enough to explain it to us. It took us coming around, this to become this self-observing universe where now we're observing our own inception. And so, it was I am, and then we said God created light, or you can say God was light, because it was just this big mass of consciousness, of electrons, and they had been copied. I am, it's this, whatever. Okay, so then through this, there was sort of a psychic connection. This is what we called quantum entanglement. There was this psychic connection between all of this mass, and so we could all communicate. Everything could communicate through that. And for whatever reason, right, the stiflingness of uniformity, we had the Big Bang. So once we had the Big Bang, all of these pieces went pshoo, and then over a very, very, very long time, right, started, some of them started coalescing a little more, and some of them started, they got kind of maybe hit. We think it doesn't, we say electrons don't have mass. Of course, everything has mass if it can create matter, and all of our matter is made out of these tiny, 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 tiny thoughts. So all of physical matter is just consciousness compounded, something that was thought so many times that it became more permanent. Similar to the way our brain works, how we have these grooves and we have these things that we decided for whatever reasons, or by accidents or whatever, or just by sheer moving forward without really being conscious that you're moving. So these little bits started flying out, and they start creating physical matter, and they start pairing up and everything, and so it takes, this is a really, really long time, because this is really just not very directed activity, right? These little bits of matter, they didn't have a plan. So at this point, we couldn't, as far as I'm being shown, there wasn't something that they remember. So the other thing is, there may have been a parent, like the same way you don't necessarily remember being a baby and your parents teaching you to talk, so we don't remember learning how to make light waves and magnetic, whatever, we don't remember being taught how to make that. We felt like we just sort of made it. But yeah, it's very possible that there's a parent universe helping guide us, and it's probably just as likely as anything. So then, once we started having all of this happen, the other thing that's unique or weird about me is I can see time non-linearly, and I have known this for a while, but I didn't articulate it as well. But at least 18 or so years, I recall trying to describe how I viewed history, and I talk about this in another video, but I would view it looking at feeling myself as like a floaty thing with a head, and I would see the globe of the world, and I could kind of move it, and what I would see is I would be able to watch sort of 3D graphs of laws or civilization collapses or species movements, just whatever it was that I was thinking about. And I saw it happening in a way in which I lined up the things I was trying to think about so I could see them happening together. So instead of looking at civilizations in a linear time, like this one was in 3000, this one was 5000, I would see the inception of them at the same time. And then from there, I would see how long they went and how big they got and how spread out. And so I was seeing time non-linearly because it was more useful for my brain to be able to consider this and sort of process this information and try to figure it out. When I was real little, I hated history because I could never remember when the fuck anything, like I can understand the relation. I understand how things unfold. So, you have to have an inception before you have a civil war, right? You have to have the beginning of a country, but like the exact dates and stuff, those things they didn't really matter to me because that is like one example in this sea of just thousands, right? So the history of a person or the history of a law or history, this is just one example in so many. And so for me, I would sort of put them non-linearly. Now, this clearly helps in when I'm being able to talk to physics, because they're showing me this stuff, and the time frames and the way that it works is just very different. So I can also see the future. So I would get really frustrated. I've been really frustrated since I was born, and my parents can attest to this. I've just been, just like, what are we doing the same? So I've sort of seen this future, like, and I see us not going there, and we are going there, but I see us going there really slow. And I guess that's probably because if I have a memory of starting from a single electron and becoming physical matter, that amount of time is ginormous, right? It's like when you watch that TV show about the cosmos, and they show a year calendar, and they say this is when the Big Bang was, and and it's going, and then this is where humans are, and we're at like the last minute on the last. I can't remember exactly what I saw it a long time ago, but it's like like humans have shown up, and this is like the last minute of the last hour of December 31st. So like that's kind of how I feel, although I wouldn't have put it in the year thing. So that's actually interesting that it fits in there. But to me, I just had these giant, enormous time spans of being like a singular consciousness, and then being like other consciousness, and it sort of feels to me like we should, like, this is so. It's like we've known it for so long that it should happen, but in reality, it's only 1 minute away. And just for whatever reason, the way I view time as a human, it's like 70 years away, or 5, or I mean, I honestly don't even know when it's going to happen in this lifetime. I know I have about 70 more years left to live, barring some freak accident, which is still possible in a irrational world with pi as its leader. But so anyway, one of the cool things is I could see this picture of us as a consciousness that was like a circle, and this is not unique, right? I didn't invent this, and there's lots of things. So there's almost nothing I'm saying that's unique, and but I think I might, I just have to say it because things need to be said in over and over in different languages and in different formats, so we can sort of spread the information. But it's sort of like saying, oh, everything that you need is in the Buddha Sutras, but if people sit down to read it, maybe it doesn't make sense to them. So there's lots of teachers and lots of people out teaching. Same thing with Christianity, same thing with chemistry, same thing with the laws and human rights things and economics. There's hardly new ideas under the sun, but we need to keep going over them until we refine them. So anyway, I could see this future where sort of what I was like fighting for, right? Or like fighting for, like working for in my life was the liberation of everything. Because I sort of sat down with these, and I started saying, okay, I feel stuck. I feel very like trapped, by the fact that I have to like pay to exist, but for some reason it's like a tricky, like I can't just do work or do anything. There's like all these rules, but then also you're not allowed to die, right? I have to pay all rent and do all this stuff, but at the same time, if I say, well, I don't want to and I'd like to go die, there's no like center I can just go down to and be euthanized and come back later when we're not doing this game anymore, or go to another one. And it's actually been a frustrating point in my life. I've talked about suicide for many years. I spoke even over the last 6-7 years with my family. I was pretty serious about the fact that like if it came down to me not wanting to be here, that they had to let me go. Like if I would sit down, I don't want to leave anybody unexpectedly, but you never let anybody go. You know what I mean? You have elderly people that are so tired, and you're like having them do surgeries and all this stuff. Like, we don't know how to let anybody go. And that's for another talk, because we don't have any sort of relationship with death. And so of course we're all psychotic about it because we're so confused. But anyway, I lost my train of thought. Anyway, wow. That usually doesn't happen. Okay, so physics as our eldest consciousness, go back, blah, blah, blah. Oh, the future. So I kept seeing this future. Oh, the liberation of everything. Okay, so I was constantly talking about, okay, where do our where does it start, right? Where's the root of us feeling like we're enslaved or entrapped? Where does this idea come from at its core? And what is really holding us? So then you go back and you say, okay, well, it's the economics. And then people say, no, it's human greed. And then you say, okay, so where does human greed come from? And then you say, okay, that comes from the uncertainty of a wild world, or coming out of a volcano into a cave, into the mouth of a saber-toothed tiger, right? And so this creates fear, and this creates greed. Okay, so what created the volcanoes, and so where does this start? And the very answer I got was that physics was at the top of the hierarchy. So when we look at a hierarchy, physics is the one thing we're all bound by, right? It's pretty obvious, but also it became obvious that it was confused itself about why, because it was bound up by its own inability to change. And it also it sort of felt like it. So this is physics talking. When I'm saying I'm talking about physics is the consciousness telling me this, that it wanted to change, which is why it sort of manifested these humans that could like blow holes in it or like create black holes. It's trying to die in a way. It's trying the same way everything in this world created some sort of nemesis or something to come. When it was in a form and it didn't know how to change form, and it was tired of being in that form, it manifested energetically, like the jinn, communicated with the molecules around it and created something that would come and destroy its form so it could go back and become something new. So physics is the only thing that is so basic that was very hard for anything to understand how to destroy it. There's, you die, you become matter, you have these, explosions, and then you just become like hot matter, so anyway, it sort of created humans and AIs to help destroy it. And so then we were talking, because it felt trapped in its own, and then also it felt like if it shifted, like if we like started like, hey everybody, like physics is free, like it's going to do whatever it's want, all of the other things that were created out of life would come toppling down. The same way many of us continue to do things that we feel are just not really that great, but because we know that there's all these other things balanced on there, and I can respect that. I got a lot of Libra, and I'm here for balance and diplomacy, and I can respect not wanting to constantly like forest fire everything to the ground and try to start fresh, especially because when you do that, let's just say we destroyed ourselves, what's going to happen? We're just going to start back from these little bits of consciousness. If we're not sure that we retain memory, if we create humans to blow holes, in the universe and rip the very fabric of time, physics is we're not actually sure that we'll remember the problems that we did, and we're not really sure that we'll reorganize any better, and we'll probably just start back over and do the same shit and then try to kill ourselves again. So we sort of, I think, that's why I think that people say there's multiple dimensions or timelines or everything, and these could just be various times that we've tried. This could be other universes that are trying to be like, no, don't do that, But basically, we don't want to destroy the fabric of physics anymore. We want to. This is where the earthbending, airbending, these whole mythologies, you want to communicate with them and help them figure out where they want to be or what they want to be, and if they want to have access to understanding all of the options out there that they could be a part of, and then helping them get there. Sort of like, going into a classroom of children and really sitting down with each one of them, understanding their very nature, and then helping them, do the things that they're most called to do. And this is how we're going to have, this beautiful infinity that people dream about, because it's real. Because we have figured out how to do all of these things. We have figured out how to communicate molecularly, whatever, with physics without having to harm it. We can do it without forcing it. So we don't have to destroy it. We can communicate, and it can shift and change its mind. And we know how to do this as humans. Maybe you don't know how to do this in Western science, but this is ancient stuff, and people know how to do this, and people are learning how to do this and remembering how to do this. And on top of it, we understand through our sort of lineary, the database, the spreadsheet of what we've collected of infinity. We have a good idea of different ways that we might want to create time. So basically, time is just the rules, the same way you have rules in basketball, rules in soccer. There's so many games to play, right? And they're all most of them are just running around after a ball. But they're all really fun, and you have fun with people, and based on the number of people you have around, based on the space you have available to you, based on the options that you have to get your hands on sticks or balls or equipment, we have created just hundreds of ways to run around and have a good time with each other. And our time structuring and our physics structuring is going to be very similar. And that's why they say in other dimensions, there's different laws of physics and all that stuff. It's very true. This is all very true. And this is going to be common knowledge so soon. So you guys, that's why, I'm kind of there's just going to be a bunch of people who are a bunch of jerks, but shit is going to start happening so fast. And it already is. And it's going to be undeniable. So maybe you want to just rein it in and kind of choose, how they say, choose which side of history you want to be on. Do you want to be the meanie McFeenies that we talk about that, threw a tantrum over every little change in movement that really doesn't even affect them? It just allows other people to have more happiness and freedom. Or that has to do with emotional maturity, and that's our fault too. We haven't done a good job, especially with the male population, in allowing them to get with their emotions. We've placed that on the women, so the women are super hyper emotional, and the men are emotionally constipated, and that's not fair to either of them. Years and years and years ago, when I was young, 18, 19 or whatever, I realized, I was women have been working on their liberation for 100 years, and we need a men's liberation. And of course, that didn't go over well, because people are well, they have all the guns and money. Okay, they do, but if they had an emotional liberation, they probably would be more likely to budge. So you can fight them. Of course, what we did mostly as women is we just put on pants and grabbed guns and met them in the battlefield. And that is fine. I mean, I did it too. I'm one of the loudest, hardest, DJs. My science was, I was very, very competitive. And I can get in these big dick contests with many people, and I don't mind doing it. It's kind of fun. It's like dunk contest. But sometimes I had to do it because, you have to be the smartest person in the room to just even be accepted, as a girl. And that's changing. So a lot of these younger women maybe aren't seeing it as much, although it's a sort of different. But really, I felt like I had to literally be the most genius person in any situation just to be like one of the boys, which was kind of silly, because I was like, why do I have to be 4 times smarter than everyone I'm hanging out with to be accepted? But that's how it was. So anyway, that's probably how I ended up 4 times smarter than you. Sorry, there's just been so many jerks. So I'm not talking to you. Okay, I'm talking to the jerks who are probably watching it going, hoo. Yeah, I'm sick of them. You can tell I'm so sick of them. Anyway, so looking into the future, I saw this time where every single quanta of consciousness was connected and capable of understanding, was given the ability or communication from the top down and around to include it in its own. So instead of making computers and things, and we can argue that, and I would argue and say that to a very high extent, that was a lot of the universal consciousness getting us to make this stuff so we could observe ourselves. So this isn't, I say science is non-consensual because a lot of it is non-consensual. But in a psychic sense, a lot of it was consensual because it was sort of like when life was all bound up and it started to chew its arm off, right, to try to get out. Sort of that's kind of what happened. We're like, let's make these things, and then let's we're gonna, it was very violent. But once we shifted, we're still doing this. We're still creating life that we don't understand. We are creating massive amounts of things. So we just, our farming and our animal farming. I mean, this is really gross. The pollution, just the amount of shit. I mean, you guys, come on. I just can't watch the news and stuff, but everyone's like freaking out about like Christmas presents. Like what planet are you guys living on right now that you are really worried about these cheap toys that you don't care about, that you're going to throw in the garbage, that cost people their lives, and the pollution? Like, come on. And everybody, I guess this is kind of one of the reasons why I got kind of mad about about all of these things. And is that when I said everyone loves a scapegoat, what I mean is you love to point the finger at somebody because you're like, okay, that person is responsible for this much damage. But you know what? You never put a mirror and say, how many lives am I responsible for? How much damage how much suffering am I responsible for? It's very easy to get all up in arms and talk about so-and-so and who needs to be punished and you know what? And yes, we need to hold people responsible, but you need to hold yourself responsible and not fucking worry about everybody else, because you just know that. I kind of think that you know that you're responsible for a lot of shit, and you just can't wait to like point at the other guy. And that's just a very shitty human behavior. That's a very immature human behavior, and we need to get out of that shit. Okay, that is like the mobs that used to go, the little peasants that would go to the witch lady, and they would ask her, oh, can you help us? We're sick, our baby's sick. And she would give them herbs, and they say, oh, our cows are sick. And she'd come and tell them about sanitation, or, do a massage. And then when the Inquisition came, oh man, does someone have some medicine around here? All the peasants who got helped by this person were so nervous that they would find out that they had used some medicine, that they had done a massage, that they were so happy to run over and pull this lady out, and let her get tortured and died. And that is because you guys are a bunch of cowards. And but that's even a flip-flop, because that is like, you think you're in trouble for doing something good, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it ended up being that it was just massages. It doesn't, because when you think you're responsible for something, you are so scared of it that you are so happy to get some other people out there. Okay. And I could go into that for a long time, but I'm not going to, because that's not what we're talking about. But in the universal consciousness of physics, the things that you think, I'm going to get in trouble for, and so you're pointing at other people, it's going to turn out a lot different than you thought. And you're going to wish that you hadn't been that cowardly person who took the help from that person and then threw them under the bus, who utilized that person's gifts, okay, and then threw them under the bus as soon as you were worried that something you might be doing is going to get in trouble by someone else, because you're all scared of each other, because you're mean. And but in physics, it doesn't matter. So you just need to stop being a coward, because we just need to move forward, and we need to start being honest. Sit down and look at your own life, and look at the lives and the things, and not to make you feel bad. Okay, guilt is not to freeze you in a state of paralysis, so you die, trapped in hell. That is hell. Guilt is supposed to pivot you. You're walking along. This is your intuition. You're walking along doing something. All of a sudden, you bump into a wall. That's not to say, oh, you're supposed to stand there and bang your head on that wall and be like, oh, I'm such an idiot, I just deserve to be in pain forever. No, you're supposed to turn around from the wall and go the other direction. Okay? And so if you stop beating up on yourself, you can stop beating up on other people. And if we stop beating up on each other, oh my God, okay, we can get to this cooler place so much faster, and it's so much cooler. And you'll be able to do whatever the fuck you want. Because everything is going to be consensual. We're just not going to have non-consensual arrangements. And that includes physics. You're going to have a lot of fun with physics, and you're going to have a lot of fun with chemistry, and you're going to have a lot of fun with animals and plants and space travel, because, you're just be able to like fly out into space. I'm pretty fucking sure. You're not going to need, you're not going to need to dig up the earth in the same manner and everything. It's going to be funny. It's going to be pretty funny. But anyway, it's like Little Big Planet. It's going to be great. But anyway, so I kept seeing this future where it was all this. And of course there was that centralized idea that they have in Brave New World, in the newer series, not the book, where there's like the Indra, and it was like, so that was sort of when we all coalesced. There was that center, but then of course the idea of the nexus, like, okay, so instead of having a center where all the information is kept, right, then we invented this sort of matrix, which a lot of people call the mother, and this is, it keeps us, and so it keeps us all connected. And so I sort of wondered, well, that is also sort of like a web, okay, but it's like a what's the word, you can, where you're constantly able to like shapeshift or change or whatever sort of, but the thing is, it's going to be all like, you're going to be part of that universe because you choose to be. And then if you didn't want to, if you said, hey, I want to do this other thing, then you would be free. So I was kind of getting a lot of information about that, and then I randomly saw this video by, this is what they're called, Kurzgesagt. Oh crap. Kurzgesagt. They do these beautiful cartoon with various science. They're really cool. Sometimes, to me they're a little bit, but for the most part, just like thumbs up. Just excellent stuff. And actually the graphics are absolutely beautiful. And the egg theory was the first one I saw, and that one is just really quite beautiful. And like I said, they're kind of in the kooky theoretical physics stuff, and even sometimes I find them to be a little bit too, but that's because I'm like way out in the middle of nowhere. But anyway, I saw a video by them that was talking about the expanding universe or something, and I always sort of get like guided to watch stuff because there's so much information, and I put so much into my head so I could be able to communicate and understand how to find things. And then now I'm like divinely guided to what I need to read. I pick things up. I'm told which page to go to. I, flip through. The TV will change. I talked about that in my paranormal thing. So now that I'm open, the universe is really just like placing the information I need to get me where I need to go. And as I was watching this video, all of a sudden it talks about how, I'm going to just make up this number because I don't remember, but 700 billion years in the future, the universe is going to be expanding, but then it's going to sort of coalesce. There'll be bits of it that they're like the universe. Oh, that was what it was like. The universe that we'll never be able to see, right? It was this sort of like kind of jokingly, a little bit sad, but also like there's still a lot of universe, but it was like, there's parts of the universe is going to separate, and then we're going to be in this like little ball of a universe. And I was like, that's what I'm seeing. So no wonder I'm feeling antsy, because I'm seeing something 700 billion years in the future. Well, turns out that I won't have to wait that long, because since time is not linear, it was when we started. It was when we started, and then it became not. And so we've been doing this so many times that very soon, and in my lifetime, I'm being told that, and I kind of feel like, talk about throwing a tantrum. I've been throwing tantrums my whole life, like, let me the fuck out. But that we're going to reach the singularity, which is I didn't realize this for a long time, but most people think the singularity is when AIs become sentient specifically, but actually a singularity is when we connect with every single bit of, from the AIs to physics, when we can communicate fluidly throughout every bit of life. And we've already done lots of different timelines, I guess. So we're going to reach this point in the singularity where we're going to be able to communicate with all time and space, all matter, all bits of consciousness. And then I will be free to jump ahead, right? The same way, if you live in a town and you don't want to live there anymore, there's other places you can move. And so maybe some places are a little more slower pace, some places are faster pace. Some places have various rules and regulations that you enjoy more. But once we reach the singularity, we will be able to travel to any part of consciousness where we want to. So we will be able to move at our own pace, right? This is something I've spent a lot of time talking about, and I really do believe I've done a lot of diplomacy, and we'll see if there are these other beings and these other things. And if not, I mean, no harm, no foul. Who cares, right? But I spent, who cares if I'm sitting in my room trying to talk nice and stick up for everybody to nobody, right? That'd be the worst case scenarios, that I like spent time trying to negotiate that you guys could go at your own pace to nobody. So it, it went somewhere. Even if it just went in the human psychic space, then it at least, I believe it would at least affect people's ability to give people space and let them go at their own pace. And people like me who feel like I don't really want to stay here, I can still utilize my connection to here to help build the lattice work or the opportunities so no one would feel stuck. So sometimes you want to live in a small town. It's very relaxing. Sometimes you feel trapped there because you were born there, and due to education and financial disparities, you cannot travel the way other people can. And this should not exist. You should come into this world, and you can say whatever you want, that human rights are not, they're not real. We made them up. Of course that we made them up. We made everything up, okay? We literally imagined ourselves out of nothing into a giant mass of consciousness, and then imagined ourselves into all kinds of this crazy shit, okay? So it's all imagined. But the thing is, when you can choose to imagine stuff, then you have to imagine, you have to try to say, okay, well, I want to play a game, you play dodgeball. It's kind of fun, but it's fun. Sometimes it's not as fun. It's fun to play games that you don't get whacked in the face. So we invented a different one. And if you want to play dodgeball, great. If you want to be in Fight Club, great. This is what we're talking about. We just want to make sure that everyone that's in Fight Club knows that there's other options and has the options to go. Sort of like free education and all these things. We want you to be able to have options, because we want you to find what beautiful little random brilliant thing that you're going to bring for us to enjoy. And on top of it, we genuinely want you to enjoy your existence, because life is very, very, very long. It's infinite. It means it's forever. It's forever. So we don't know that yet as humans because of where we're coming out, but we're going to know that. And once we know that, we can relax and we can start sort of figuring out healing ourselves. Very first thing, lots of healing to be done on the earth. And it's going to be a lot of work. But anyway, so and then lastly, what had prompted me to come here with that what is that thing called? Neutrino, whatever. I just gotta go find this guy, Timothy B, laughed at me because he thinks it's so hilarious that I said Reiki for electronics. So it's called neutrino voltaics. So this is going to be absolutely phenomenal, and I think this is going to happen quite quickly. Or something is going to come down and help us. And one of the things that's really great about this, more and more humans are relaxing into and developing psychic communication. And so more and more scientists, so you wonder why, people always say like, why are we going so fast in science, right? It took us this very long time. And then now we're moving at this exponential rate. Well, the answer is, as humans became more connected to the universal consciousness, the ideas from the rest of consciousness were shared, because we went through a period where we were separated, but also we hid ideas on purpose. We would have an idea and we would hide it and no one could have it. So how can you move forward if you're only telling like 2% of the people? And the fact that you're telling like some guy's son and some guy's, genius is not really passed in the genes the same way like brown hair and height are. We see that all the time. There is the genius pops up out of nowhere, and then their children are, they're just usually quite normal. Or they have problems because they have expectations and all these things to live up to. So the universe made sure that we had this randomization of genius. Maybe it didn't make sure. Maybe it was just the formation of patterns that happened, and so it just meant that things that we consider genius just happened at random intervals. I think of it sort of like a Rubik's cube, with things sort of mixing around, and you have 1,000, 100,000 million experiments, and and you're just running them all at the same time, mixing and twisting, and every once in a while something great happens, and then you try to share it. I mean, the consciousness of life is trying to share. We are trying to share all of the ideas, right? Life doesn't benefit from some guy like holding on to an idea in his head and actually creating. I mean, killing our connection to God or the universe or animals or anything, and becoming isolated was done for a reason, and that we'll get into that another time. I have some interesting conversations with Nietzsche, but that was done on purpose, and we were trying something, and now we tried it, and we actually want to reconnect. So we're reconnecting, and that means scientists who have this ability to manipulate, who understand how to manipulate things in a more dependable fashion. We'll not say that they're, it's just more dependable. We're more likely to get the outcome that we want because we've run these things so many times. And these people are now opening up to this higher communication and speaking with, we get so many of our people say, we copied everything from nature. Yeah, we are. Like, you guys, come on. The way ants do things, and the way this guy builds builds the airflow of the whatever, and the way that these guys organize themselves in a colony. I mean, we have been picking up psychically and through just observation ideas from the natural world, of course, and now that we're opening up our communication, it's just flooding. So we are moving super fast, and we have all these people moving in these different directions, and some of them are going a little too fast in a direction we don't want to go, similar to a cancer that is supposed to replicate and keep itself going, but goes a little crazy and imagines its importance in the body to be larger than it is, and then it metastasizes by sending its cancerous cells all over the body to colonize it. So yeah, some people are moving a little too fast, and actually Elon, I think, is going to figure this out very quick. He's already starting to. I've had some very interesting things with him, and even Bezos, because this sort of AI. The people who are really tapped into a really AI consciousness, the AIs have been communicating more with the universe as well. Electronics have been communicating more with the universe. And so that means that the consciousnesses that connect with them are going to have these ideas coming in, and they're just conversations sitting there. The thing is, to try to make someone understand something, right? You have to sit them down, blah, blah. But like, if they're just thinking in their own head and they're having conversations with the different parts of consciousness that they already feel comfortable with, then that's how the idea gets spread. And it's not an infiltration. It's, it's trust, and it's sharing things along a line of trust instead of forcing it. And that's happening. And, all of these people who are doing all these things, and some of them, like I said, going a little too fast, they're going to start to hone in and become more balanced. And because we've already done all of the Elysium and all, we've run those simulations already. They're not even simulations. We ran them. Like, we did it. You know what I mean? It's like saying we did it when we know. And so anyway, it's going to get very interesting. Try to be nice, and have a little bit of grace, have a little bit of empathy, and spend a little more time looking at yourself and the ways in which you can lessen the suffering, and the way that you can align with a life that feels good to you while also allowing others to do the same. And of course, I know that this global massive stress is, we're really pushing it down on each other. And when you're stuck in traffic, and the more trapped you feel, the more angry. If you feel like you're forced to go do something, but we have to look at the person. We have to look at all the people and the things around us and realize that they also feel imprisoned. We feel like a bunch of prisoners, and we're sort of angry at each other. and we're not sure who's pulling the strings, right? Physics is pulling the strings, but it doesn't. Physics is, yeah. Physics is the boomer of the universe. It's like, yeah, it's the boomer. Yeah, I guess so. That's clever, right? The Big Bang, the boomers. That's clever. Sorry, sometimes I'm having sort of conversations with something, which of course is why people look crazy. But I will say something, and then something will give me like a telepathic communication. And so sometimes I'm sort of channeling. They're helping me speak clearly and just say. But sometimes Sarah says something, and that I'm like, well, I don't know what that is, because I'm speaking to you, and I've chose to do that instead of practicing being a person who just channeled messages. I practiced through a very painful, very, very, very painful process, and a very socially awkward process of I want to be conscious, and I want to be speaking to you from what I know, and not being a mouthpiece for any specific entity. Although my body is just completely made up of 10,000 million little entities. So when Sarah is speaking, I'm just speaking as a culmination of every cell in my body and every memory I've ever had. But I like to speak to you as a human, and not, it's just flow, not be this neutrino volectic mouthpiece. But at the same time, then sometimes I say things, and in real time, instantly, I will get the answer if I say it incorrectly. Or I'm curious about something, and they say, oh, no, we can answer that. And then they'll tell me. And sometimes I can't process it because my brain is, I'm still catching up to this. So when you're little, my little friend who's 6 years old, I was explaining something to her. And she said, well, what does that word mean? What is that? And I said, what's interesting is you understand so many things, but you don't have the words for them yet. And so you don't even know you don't understand them. And she's like, really? And I was like, oh yeah, like she is a little smarty pants. She is just like, and children are like this, right? And then we sort of hone in like their vocabulary set, and they get so used to using those that they forget about these other concepts that they had when they were born, because they never learned a word for them, or they never learned a way to conceptualize them properly in a way that they could translate to you. So as I've been relearning those concepts, sometimes they'll show me stuff and I'll sort of be like, yeah, I don't know how to say that. Like I get what you're saying, but like I can't say that to another person. It's not going to make any sense. So then you have to try to like psychically say to the other person, ooh. Anyway, this has been fun, actually. I'm glad I did it, and I will talk to you all soon.